And you have this person to blame.
Hey guys, it's Nux, and today we are talking about Sonic, but this video is going to be a bit different. Part of it will be an analysis in a sense, but I'm not going to lie, a part of this video will also be a rant. Essentially what I want to do is a short retrospect on the 25th anniversary of Sonic, but then I want to talk about the current direction of this series and where it is potentially heading. So where we left off is that I was able to drop my big reviews for both Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces. Both games were the big 25th anniversary games, and the reason I want to make this video is to not only get my final thoughts on those games out, but to recap these last few years. And it's interesting because these last few years do play a part in how Sonic may move forward. Well, I use forward loosely, considering we may just get stuck with another pair of games that both make us play Green Hill Zone again. Because nothing says forward like replaying the same level a million times. See, let me just come out the gate and get to my point with the 25th anniversary. The 25th anniversary was just not very good to me. Personally, I couldn't stand these last few years with Sonic because of how negative I felt over it. I have felt this way since the 25th anniversary party. At one point on Twitter, I said that Sonic Forces was not disappointing to me. It wasn't my most disappointing Sonic game because it never really felt disappointing while I was playing it. And some people were confused by that because they were like, wait, Nux, didn't you make a whole video on why Sonic Forces is so bad? How is it not disappointing? Well, you see, people misinterpreted that. The reason why Sonic Forces and Sonic Mania weren't disappointing to me is because all the elements I disliked about those games were not a surprise to me. Through the pre-period of both Mania and Forces, you could tell almost exactly what you were getting into. All the information that came out in the 25th anniversary party alone spoke enough to give me the big picture in my head. Like, the biggest disappointment of Mania and Forces for me never came from the games themselves, is basically what I'm trying to say. It came from both the initial reveals of the games. If you guys remember, I made a video talking about the things I would love to see in the 25th anniversary. And to summarize, not a single thing really came true. The only good thing I was granted was not seeing Sonic boom around outside of that TV show. You see, between the end of the 20th anniversary and the beginning of the 25th anniversary, my expectations and wonder for the next big Sonic game was high. I wanted to believe that all the safe BS from the Colors era would end and we would be back to the true Sonic formula where Sonic games are usually ambitious and always try something new. But instead, I basically got one of the biggest slap in the faces from Sonic Team and Sega. It was just Sega pushing forward more and more the issues I see in Sonic now, and expressing my disappointment was almost useless because, like always, the fans just cheered it on blindly as if we were truly getting something mind-blowing. Like, all we got was a 16-bit style 2D Sonic game, which was far from something that we have never seen in our lives. There were fan games, and Sega literally pushed nostalgia in 2D hard for a whole decade, and I'm supposed to think that's amazing? And then Forces almost gave me hope, but seeing classic Sonic shattered everything. And the worst part is, in the case of Forces especially, it wasn't even worth giving this game the slightest chance at being decent, because like I said in my review, there were areas of Forces that were so bad, it fell below my already low expectations. Also keep in mind that Forces already wasn't the game I wanted. And Sonic Mania wasn't the game I wanted for sure either. But at least I finished Sonic Mania with a good vibe and spirit. There are elements of Mania that truly made it one of the best Sonic games this last decade. And the reason why is you can feel the effort and passion into it. They could have just made Mania play like any other 2D Sonic fan game or official game, but they went extra miles on so many areas. And it's that passion that gave me a little hope in Sonic. Mania being such a good game is the only reason I even made it out of 2017 still caring about Sonic. But overall, in the end, both games failed at one thing to me, giving me hope that Sonic hadn't changed, that the Sonic I knew was still there and the series would be back to action, interactions between characters, and all the cool stuff I felt defined Sonic. But nope, more nostalgia pandering and a mixing bowl of elements Sega threw up because they couldn't come up with anything. To me, 2017 was that final message from Sega, truly telling us that they don't get Sonic the Hedgehog anymore. At least to me. What defined Sonic to me was always how cool the character was, and the willingness to move forward and have new unexpected adventures. Forward, not backwards. Or something like that. That's a quote I got from Luke Cage. It's a good Netflix series. But basically, each Sonic game I always had this wonder of where the next big adventure would take Sonic. I used to ask, I wonder where the new game will take Sonic now. And now all I can do is look and say, oh, Green Hill, Chemical Plant, Zones from the 90s again, Super. My point is, the 25th anniversary basically failed at keeping that spirit alive. The closest to getting what I kind of wanted was in the effort of Sonic Mania and how it actually did change some elements of 2D Sonic up. I generally was a fan of the level design of Sonic Mania. There were elements of Mania that did a great job of improving Sonic gameplay-wise, but that's it. What's the point of that if, concept-wise, Sonic is just going to sit around in the same zones and do the same blicky-saving garbage? And that is a big reason I have an issue with the 2D and the nostalgia stuff in Sonic. It holds back the series so badly. Not everyone, but a lot of people just seem to think this is like the first time Sonic has ever attempted to tackle the past, and praise Mania because Sonic will be in Green Hill Zone again, or be in a design that gives him black eyes. People legit think that Mania resurrected Sonic to classic elements entirely, as if the literal past decade of Sonic was not straight dedicated to pandering to nostalgia. As if we have never seen a single 2D game in any form that took cues from the Genesis games, both in the core series and in other parts of the series as well. It's just annoying to me. It's time to get to my true deep thoughts on the future of Sonic and why it's so murky to me. 2017 told me in so many ways that Sonic Team itself, the dudes who made Sonic what it is, are a shell of their former selves. Most of the staff that even truly understood the spirit of Sonic left long ago, especially with guys like Naka or Shiro. Heck, seeing how bad the development team could barely put Forces together speaks volumes in itself. Forces had so much time to put out something at least decent. Look at the Mania team, they didn't have all that much time, they put out a great Sonic game. And instead of being inspired by that passion to get themselves together, Sonic Team wants to bury themselves in pride and find every little loophole they can to reach a quick success rather than earn it through hard work, hence relying on the past. And to put it quite blunt, this is not the Sonic Team I grew up looking up towards. I always saw Sonic Team as ambitious and inspiring in how far they went to create a Sonic game. They truly were an amazing team to me at their best, and I don't care what anyone says. Sonic was not always this bad, and the mentality that Sonic was never good is freaking stupid. Especially the elite mentality that the Genesis games are what define all of Sonic. I'm just tired of this cycle. I'm tired of seeing Sonic Team and Sega fall apart this way. I am beyond the point of putting my foot down, and so many times I've considered just giving up on Sonic. I want to keep believing, man, but it feels like each game lately grows my biggest issues worse than less in my eyes. And I thought this was maybe just me alone, but the quality decrease and this change in Sonic is damaging the brand as a whole. We see how worse and worse Sonic is getting treated outside, and how the series is the stepping mat of the industry. So at this point, it's not even about what I want in the future, because that is not going to matter if Sega can't get it together overall. I'm more so riding along with heavy personal thoughts. Yeah, I still have my own desires for where I want Sonic to go, and I'm not going to lie in saying a lot of my personal feelings play a part in how I feel about Sonic now. But looking at the community overall, it isn't just me. The quality decrease is hurting everyone. And even if Sega were to come out with some really good game that does finally have things we want in Sonic, that is not going to matter if Sonic potentially dies. And I feel like a lot of fans do not understand this and how dire things could get if we keep ignoring the issues. But I also am starting to feel like it could be too late. A whole decade of signs and pointers to how things could get really bad. And not only did the fans blindly ignore it, but Sega themselves did not give a single damn. I tried to really express these thoughts deeply before for years, and when it came to criticizing the series, Sega, Sonic Team, and the fanbase would treat anyone who would do that like the bad guys. All because we objected the current direction of Sonic. It meant we were haters and we were being overdramatic. So we got treated like pure garbage. A lot of us still stayed even with that BS because we cared that much, but some other people, yeah, they just bailed because no one wanted to waste their efforts for Sonic the Blue Fast Fictional Hedgehog. And it's funny, nowadays I see people want to talk about criticizing Sonic. I see some people repeat some ideas I've presented on stuff like True Sonic Spirit. And I see all these people buttering up, and I can't help but feel bitter and annoyed. Like, naturally I am, because where was this support a decade ago? Maybe if we had realized all this sooner instead of blindly eating up garbage since Sonic Generations, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. I boldly claim this because it just really hurts, man. But I can't do anything about it now, I suppose. But anyway, despite this, I still see people try to argue Sonic is the same and things are clearly fine. Oh, Sonic still has Green Hill Zone. He's in his black eye design more often, and they're bringing classic Sonic back. It must mean things are perfectly okay. No, no, and no. Y'all do not understand that this nostalgia pandering BS is not what Sonic truly is, was, or was meant to be. And I want to get this off my chest, especially after the pathetic showing that was South by Southwest 2018. So this panel was supposed to be about the future of Sonic, quote unquote. But I just decided to go into this panel with zero expectations, and it pretty much delivered to a T of what I expected, basically nothing. To summarize, more classic Sonic, some stuff on those new IDW Sonic comics that aren't that important right now, and a new racing game. This is the future of Sonic apparently, and I couldn't be a little more worried. First, the classic stuff. On one hand, I want to 100% rip into this because it adds on to a fear I've had. This fear that due to Forces' failure, Sega is going to misinterpret it as, oh, the solution is more nostalgia, more classic Sonic. That'll fix all our problems. And it seems that milking the nostalgia elements of Sonic is the best thing they can do, because of course it is. They've seen it as some saving grace since as far back as Sonic 4 and Sonic Colors, and it annoys me. But on another hand, it is understandable in a small sense, because, well, milking it more than ever somehow makes sense. Basically, what Forces seemingly showed was that somehow a lot of the Boost Formula team has moved from Sega due to their overall garbage vibe. It is why Forces barely had any sort of team behind it. So right now, they're scrambling to figure out what the actual future of Sonic is, because Sega was actually expecting games like Forces to succeed. Just like how they were expecting Sonic Boom to succeed, for example. Sonic Boom had a $20 million budget behind it. It was clear that they had great faith in it, and possibly were going to set it up as the future of the franchise. But nope, it's a spin-off, so it isn't important. Sonic 06 from a decade ago, though, that's the devil itself. We should focus more hate on that. But back to my point. Why is classic Sonic going to be pushed harder, I imagine? Most likely because now, it is really the only thing they have going for them. Because Forces didn't work out, they have to milk out Mania to hold them off until they can come up with the next step in the actual current main series. That is, if their plan isn't to go full lazy and screw over everything we've built till now. Now, it isn't continuing the ideas of Mania forward that make me mad, considering I encouraged this myself. My biggest fear is this stupid idea people keep encouraging to where Sega has to ultimately appeal Sonic towards classic Sonic as the face of the brand. Some comments I've seen towards this include, this is what Sonic was meant to be. No action-oriented stories, no friends and interactions with them, no other locations that aren't from the 90s, nothing. Just Sonic and that wacky scientist Eggman running around Green Hill with flickies, and oh my god, this mentality needs to die in a burning fire. You know what I truthfully think of the Sonic brand and why it has an identity crisis? Because of nostalgia-driven people who barely understand what makes Sonic Sonic. Yes, let's throw away 20 years of a whole series and only focus on the games that were made in the 1990s. Which by now has concepts that are so old and dated, it needs to be evolved by natural progression. Stop thinking about Green Hill for a second and think about it. No other franchise in gaming does this. No other series treats a small piece of its entire brand like an entire different series. I'm going to tell it straight for the final time. Classic Sonic isn't a separate character. He does not deserve his own branding and identity. He is Sonic, and the difference is he is an old design from the 90s. Sega has brainwashed this frankly already brain-dead fandom into believing he's some messiah from another dimension. And really, it's a part of Sonic they tore off into its own face just so they could be lazy in making games relying on cheap gimmicks than putting effort in. I even see people say dumb stuff like, hey, let's replace Sonic's current design in all mediums with classic Sonic. Let's have the classic design in Super Smash Bros., for example. Even though Sonic in Smash, I feel was represented nearly perfectly when he came to Brawl. It's one of his best designs, but it doesn't have black eyes, and it doesn't remind me of Green Hill Zone, so it must be wrong. Here's my honest, true thoughts on classic Sonic. Can we just leave the classic Sonic design in the 90s outside of simply referencing the classics? That would be nice. Keep Sonic exactly how he was when he moved on from the classic era. Yes, his modern design isn't perfect, I understand that, and in many games they don't do it justice. But this pointless war between the styles is literally killing the franchise's identity. And if Sega continues it for the purpose of trying to make money off nostalgia, I can't keep dealing with it. I'm willing to wait and see what could happen these next few years, but the stupidity of the fandom, the horribleness of Sega as a company over the years, and many other big issues I am beyond tired of have pushed me to my final limits. I am at my breaking point where I feel like I am almost done with Sonic the Hedgehog. I have better things to do than argue over this fictional blue hedgehog who runs fast all my life. I know I promised I would stay with the series and keep making videos. Guys, I do want to keep being there for the series, but not really. Truthfully, I've grown to dislike the series more and more because it constantly just gets more distasteful. It actively feels like Sega keeps kicking me while I'm down, and there's only so much you can take before you gotta stand up, sock the abuser in the face, and give them the middle finger. And you would think that at this point, I would have been long gone. And not going to lie, there were many moments I was. But something I can't explain just keeps me looking back. I'm at the point where I'm almost ready to move on, but my foot always keeps me from walking out the door in hopes that maybe, if I look back one more time, it will be different. Maybe, just maybe, the Sonic I want to see back will be there. But the truth is, it won't, because Sega practically killed it and buried the meaning. And it doesn't help some of the fandom unknowingly help. So if less Sonic videos come from me, it's mostly due to the fact that I don't want to repeat points I've been talking about for nearly a decade. I'm still going to talk about the series on my social media and even on this channel because I do want to talk about Sonic in maybe some positive ways left. There are some things I do want to touch with Sonic while I still have the passion for it a little bit left. But like I said, I have no promises to make because I don't know how much longer I'm willing to take where the series is going. And if it really gets to a breaking point that just hits that final limit to where I can't take it anymore, then I might as well just leave. And who knows what could happen if I give up on Sonic. Obviously, no more Sonic videos from me. And I can't promise that that is a possibility in the near future. But otherwise, I got nothing else to say. I mean, I guess I could also add that I can't even promise I'll leave Sonic. This isn't a definitive proposition of whether I'm leaving Sonic or not. I'm just stating the fact of how bad I feel with the series right now. But I haven't come to the super final conclusion of Sonic, and maybe one day the series will get its act together and I can be really happy and proud with the series again. But until that day comes, I have nothing else to say for now. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this for whatever reason, then I guess you can leave a like, but more so what I encourage is to leave a comment talking about what you think of all I said here. I know it's a lot to take in, but I'm not mindlessly spouting all this out. I am coming from somewhere. But that is all I have to say. Alright, this is Nux, and I'm out. Goodbye.